Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Claudia and I recently graduated from UC Irvine a couple months ago, and I made this video talking all about my experience being a business administration major at UCI. So if you haven't seen that, be sure to click it. I will try to link it like up here or up here. I don't know where it is, but I'll be sure to link it somewhere so you guys can check it out. In that video, I kind of gave a overview on my experience there, but I got a comment from someone named Michelle on that video, and she basically asked me kind of more specific questions about my time there. So I decided to make this video, answer those questions, and hopefully it can help you guys or anyone else who's thinking about going to UCI. So the first question she asked me is, if people want to sit in the first front rows, how early should you arrive to class? So there are a lot of factors that kind of affect whether you get a front row seat in a class. One, it really depends on who the professor is. Two, what class it is. Three, how popular that class is. So I would say for like lower division classes, if you're taking a really popular class like Intro to Econ, Intro to Management, or Calculus, those lecture halls are huge. So it's going to be really hard to get like a front row seat. You're probably going to have to compete, with like 100+ people. But I would say like for the most part, if you come at least 10 minutes early, you should be fine. Once you reach upper division classes, those class sizes are smaller. So as long as you come like, again, 10 minutes to 5 minutes early, you should be fine. I usually come honestly like 3 minutes before class, and I ended up sitting at least in the first 2 rows, and I'm fine. Are lecture halls open 24/7 for students to study, or are they occupied? So lecture halls are open until midnight, I believe, or actually the whole Mirage building is open until midnight, and then like past midnight, like the janitors will kick you out. It really depends on what day of the week it is and what time you're trying to study. So I would recommend kind of just checking at the classrooms and seeing what times you typically like to study and what classes are open. We have an old building called SB2, which is like the old business school, and those classes are a little bit smaller and kind of older, so they're not usually used for lectures. They're more used for like discussion. So those classes are open during the day, and a lot of people actually go there to study. But I would say that the best bet is just like opening doors and see what's open at what time. As undergraduate students, we also have 2 rooms booked for us to use between the hours of, I think, like 9 to 6. You just have to go to like the undergraduate office and they'll give you like a room key and you can book the room. Where are your favorite study locations on campus? So I feel like I'm one of the select few who like to study at home or kind of in like my respective apartment. I know that's, unheard of to people who like studying at coffee shops or studying with people. And like I like doing those things too, but if I really have to grind, I need to be like in my room, like doors closed, just in my zone, or else I will get distracted. However, I do like studying at the libraries, which is like Langston. We also have Gateway. Those are really popular like study areas. So I also really like CSL, which stands for like the Courtyard Study Lounge, and not many people who are like freshmen know what it is yet because it is like an underground building. Like you have to go down a couple of stairs or go to the student center to find it. But if you just Google like UCI CSL, like there'll be pictures and there'll be a map on how to get there. But I really like that because it's kind of less popular, it's like more secluded, and also they have private rooms for you to book, which is really, really useful if you have like a team meeting or something. Mirage is also a really, really popular place to study at. We're actually one of the few schools that have like our own little cafe area, and it's really popular. I know people of all majors come to Mirage just to use like our courtyard in our study lounge, so that's a really popular place too. Some buildings actually have really cool rooftops where you can study. I don't know the name of the building from like the top of my head, I just like know how to find it. But I think one of the most exciting parts about being a new student at a university is like finding and exploring those new study spots that you like. And yeah, just be sure to check out the rooftops and like just click like the highest floor in the elevator and see where it takes you. Next question is, were there other ways to get help such as free tutoring? Great question. So back in high school, I didn't take calculus, and all business administration students have to take Math 2A and 2B, which is equivalent to calculus A, B, and BC. And I was so stressed because I'm not a math person. I don't know calculus like at all. UCI has this thing called LARC. I don't know what it stands for, but again, just Google UCI LARC and it'll take you to the website. But basically, it's the tutoring center on campus that's taught by students. And I know it's free if you get financial aid, but if you don't get financial aid, it's only $100 a quarter. And honestly, it's so worth it. Like, I felt like when I went to my calculus class, like, my professor was spending hours talking about theory and like explaining, you know, who found this theorem and blah blah blah. Like, I don't actually understand how to solve the problem. Like, it just didn't make sense. But when I went to LARC, they broke down each step like one by one, and they gave you a worksheet so you wouldn't forget how to do it, and they just explained to you in the most concise way possible. And how it works, it's like another class where you have to sign up for it, and I highly recommend that you do this early because LARC classes do fill up if it's like a good tutor and stuff like that. So be sure to check it out once you start school because I highly recommend it, especially for hard classes like calc. What are the most popular choices for housing? I'm looking into apartments mostly because transfers don't dorm. Did you like where you resided during your junior and your senior year? A couple of things that I want to point out, this is mainly for freshmen. In your freshman year, you have to choose where you're going to live the next year as early as October, which is so stupid because, for example, I got into college around like late September, like September 25th, and then by like October 16th, they were like, okay, you have to find housemates and you have to find where you're going to live by the end of October. And I'm like, I don't have friends. Like, I don't have friends. I haven't done research. I was so annoyed. And I think the reason why they do that is because the on-campus apartments are in such high demand because there's so many students that, like, okay, freshmen, like, you are given priority because you don't know what you're doing, so you have to figure this out by October. And I'm like, why? So be sure to do your research now so you can kind of be less stressed when October comes. Second thing, just because it says it's an on-campus apartment doesn't actually mean it's physically on campus. In fact, some of the on-campus apartments like Norte, VDC, Camino del Sol are one of the farthest apartments from campus, which is, I know, it doesn't make any sense, but basically on-campus apartments just mean that like UCI runs and maintains that building. It doesn't actually mean it's physically on campus. So sometimes you're better off like going through a third party, like UTC for example, which is literally across the street, but it's considered off campus because UCI doesn't own it. Okay, so yeah, back to the question. My second year of college, I stayed on an off-campus apartment called Puerto del Sol, and that apartment complex is one of the closest apartments to Mirage or to the business school, so that's why I chose it. Overall, my experience was okay. My room was really, really small. Like, I felt like I was living in a closet. I couldn't even fit my own desk in there, so that was like the only bad thing. Other than that, oh, another bad thing was the fire alarm would go off once a month for no reason. But besides that, it was honestly really nice because one, it was close to campus, two, it came furnished, so I didn't have to buy like a mattress or a dresser or anything like that, and three, they had free printing, and also they paid for water there, I think, which is really, really good. So I think on campus is kind of the move if you're a transfer student because most of the time the apartments will come furnished, so you don't have to like buy all these extra furniture and extra things when you move out in like 2 years. So I think that's something to look into. However, if you're a freshman, try to look into any off-campus apartments that are close to campus. Like my senior year, for example, I stayed at UTC Stanford, which was right next to campus. I personally didn't like it. I know, all these negative vibes, but honestly, I just didn't like it because I felt like the customer service at UTC was really poor. Like, we had so many issues. Like, we had ants, we had construction, we had like water damage, and like UTC honestly just did such a bad job at, you know, getting back to us and contacting us in a timely manner, and we kind of just had to like suck it up for like a good chunk of my senior year, which is so stupid. But yeah, honestly, your best bet is to like get a house, but I didn't have a car in college, so. How were the lectures and course workloads like? Do you have any tips on which courses to avoid taking together or which to take together? This is all just my opinion, but for lower division classes, I think calculus is probably the hardest series you have to take, like Math 2A and 2B as a business major, and I've heard that accounting courses are pretty difficult. I personally took accounting at a community college, so I didn't have to take it at UCI, but I would probably recommend not taking those together because one, calculus is so much work and it's really stressful, and accounting is for the most part a new concept to most students. I don't think most students had accounting in their high school, so it kind of takes a little bit more brain power to learn something so new. So I wouldn't recommend taking those two together. For upper divisions, I would not recommend taking Management 101 and 109 together. Again, just my opinion, but personally I'm not like a huge math person, and Management 101, which is management science, is kind of like supply chain and statistics, and Management 109 is corporate finance, and that was a lot of math as well. So those two together would just be really stressful and math intensive, and I didn't take those together, thankfully, but that's just my opinion. Courses for giving, or were courses based off 2 tests and or some other huge factors. So by this, I think she means kind of like how were grades structured, or like what was the breakdown of each class. And again, there's not really like a right or wrong answer to this. I would say always be prepared to have 2 midterms and 1 final. The final being either 30 to 40% and each midterm being around like 20 to 25% of your grade. It really depends, but I remember from like all my finance and accounting classes, I always had 2 midterms and a final, and participation was always like 10% and homework was like 10% or something, or total to be 10%. However, once you reach like upper division electives where you can kind of like take whatever you want, some classes were as flexible as doing a group project or doing homework and 1 speech, and that was your entire grade. So I would just say be prepared for 2 midterms and 1 final. With the quarter system being just 10 weeks, how did you manage your time? Do you have any advice for incoming students? Oh my gosh, yes. The quarter system is so fast. This was definitely one of the hardest things to adapt to as a freshman because it's honestly so stressful because you think you're chilling like week 1, week 2, and then week 3 to week 5 you have like test, quiz, and then final. And I'm like, bro, always have your guard up. Like even if it's week 1 and week 2 and you kind of know what's going on, by the time it's like week 3, they're gonna hit you with a quiz and you're like, wait, I don't remember learning this. And it's because you were supposed to read like that textbook or that book like before the class. I would say just go to class because honestly going to class takes such a huge workload off your shoulders because you don't have to study at home. I would also just say like know yourself. Like if you're a night studier but like you want to go to this event that ends at like 10 p.m, you're probably going to be really tired and you don't have time to study. So just manipulate your schedule and be organized so that you don't have, to study at like 2 a.m. when really all of us did. But yeah, also most of the events happen at night, probably starting as early as like 6:30, ending as late as like 10. So because we have so many events, be sure to do your work before that so you're not stressing out. What I did personally was like I would always make it so that I have work at like starting at 9 a.m. and then I have my classes right after. So like if I have work from like 9 to 12 and class from like 1 to 3, I have at least like 4 to 6 to do my homework before I have to start going to meetings and events starting at 6:30. So that's how I just plan my schedule, but just know that as a business major, grades aren't everything unless you're trying to go to grad school, but honestly grades aren't everything. Be sure to be involved and like get an internship and do other things because GPA doesn't last forever. Or GPA doesn't matter? I don't know the saying. GPA doesn't define you? GPA? Whatever. But yeah, that concludes this video. Thank you so much, Michelle, for sending in so many questions. You basically made this video possible. If you have any more questions, please be sure to leave it in the comments and I will try my best to answer them, or I will make an entirely new video dedicated to those questions. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.